One of the most popular pre-built gaming PC lineups that I've reviewed are the Corsair Vengeance PCs. We've got right here one of their latest, and we're going to take you through our full experience to help you decide if it's actually worth it in this 100% honest review of the Corsair Vengeance i8300. This configuration that we have here for you includes the all-new 5080 GPU, a GPU that you currently can't find anywhere but in a pre-built like this one. I'm going to quickly take you through the unboxing and what's included, gaming and creator benchmarks, design and build quality, the internals, thermals, fan noise, overall ease of use, pricing breakdowns and comparing its price to performance ratios against the competition, and my overall top likes and dislikes. If you decide against this PC after anything that I say in this video, just keep watching because I'm also going to be sharing with you some alternative PCs that I recommend for every budget. I'll include links down below for all the products that I mentioned, as well as tagged directly on this video or using a QR code if you're watching on a TV. And as a bonus, I'm also going to be reviewing the monitor that came with this bundle that I got. I guarantee that by the end of this video, you will know if this PC is right for you or not. But if you still have any questions after watching this entire video, just shoot me a comment, and if you're publicly subscribed, I guarantee a personal response. All right, now let's rewind back into the past real quick and check out what came in the box. Inside, we've got your typical, very obvious instructions. And then on the side, we've got a small box with some SATA cables for any extra hard drives that you might want to add, PCIe cables, Molex, more SATA cables, your very beefy power cable, a USB to fan or RGB converter, this little MSI wrench, Wi-Fi antenna, a thank you for choosing Corsair card, and a massive warranty guide. One of my favorite parts about this computer and its previous version, the i8200, is this design. Definitely a gamer's dream, at least when it comes to looks. It's got 6 individually controllable LED strips, all of them glowing through these stylized vent holes that give it a nice and subtle sci-fi appearance. At 10 inches wide, 20.5 inches deep, 22 inches tall, and 49.6 pounds, it's definitely one of the larger pre-builts that I've reviewed. This PC is designed with Corsair's 5000 T case, which is specifically designed for quick and easy access. It features a door that you can just pop open to reach the internals without first having to remove any screws. I'm gonna remove it just for this review though. Inside, you're going to find Corsair's new IQ Link fans. We've got 7 total in this case, the 3 on the front being intakes and the other 4 are exhausts. These 3 at the top are actually part of our all-in-one liquid cooling system. And for those of you new to PC gaming, this is the most important part of keeping your CPU cool. This right here is the CPU cooling block, which uses a liquid to transfer the heat up through these tubes into a 360mm radiator at the top where the heat is spread out and then blown out with these 3 top fans. To the right of our CPU, we've got our Corsair Dominator Titanium RGB DDR5 RAM at 6400 megahertz. We've got 2 sticks of 32 gigabytes for a total of 64, which is honestly a bit overkill for most games right now, but this could be pretty beneficial for people who use it for 4K editing, motion graphics work, or 3D modeling and animation. And then below the CPU, behind this metal heatsink, is one of our 2 included SSDs. This one is an MP700 Elite, and it's the main C drive where the operating system is installed. I was absolutely blown away when we tested this one. Never in all of my reviews have I seen a drive that tested over 10,000 megabits per second read and almost 9,000 write. The best of the best before this have been in the 7,000 range. This is insanely fast, and it's double what the last generation i200 had. The star of the show though, and the most costly piece, is the graphics card. The all-new PNY GeForce RTX 5080 GPU. This is how big it is compared to the previous Gen 4080 Super. Pretty massive. Then swinging around to the back and opening the back panel just like the front, you can see all of our cable management, 3 bays for 2.5-inch SATA SSDs, and on the bottom left you can kind of see where you can add 2 more 3.5-inch mechanical hard drives. It's just a little annoying that you have to remove this giant metal bracket just to access that. And then lastly, in the bottom right, our Corsair RM1200X Shift 1200 watt 80 plus gold power supply. Yes, it is technically modular, but it's also not compatible with regular power supply cables. You'll notice that these connectors are quite a bit smaller than usual, and below them it reads, designed for use with genuine Corsair Type 5 cable sets only. This feels to me kind of like a sneaky way of making sure that people only buy Corsair power supplies in the future whenever they need to upgrade or replace it. Either that or you're gonna have to rerun all of your cables, which most people that buy pre-builts do not want to have to do. That being said, I absolutely love the design of this power supply, with the connectors actually facing outwards where you can actually access them versus inwards where you can't even see what's going on. That's what most power supplies do, unfortunately. For the ports on the top, we've got a power button, 4 USB-A's, 1 USB-C, a headphone microphone combo jack, and a reset button. And on the back, a dedicated BIOS flash button, the all-new Thunderbolt 4 USB-C with insanely fast 40 gigabits per second speeds, an HDMI and DisplayPort, a PS2 port for older keyboards and mice, 7 more USB ports, a 5G Ethernet port, 1 more USB-C, your 2 connectors for your Wi-Fi 7 antennas, and then at the bottom, a microphone line out and line in. And on the back of your 5080 GPU, 1 HDMI and 3 display ports. Now for the software, the main program that you'll be using in this PC is the iQ app. It's going to be your go-to for anything that's RGB related, and yeah, it's got a lot of options. You can customize pretty much everything in here. If it glows, you can tweak it. There's tons of animations that you can choose from. Some are cool, but a lot of them are just plain weird. Those fancy mural effects, hard pass for me. They're actually kind of awkward and make your PC look like it's a bit confused. Personally, I like to keep it simple with Corsair Blue or maybe Rainbow Wave. There is a pretty cool feature called Time Warp for the RGB fans. It perfectly syncs the LEDs with the fan speed so that you can make it look like your fans are frozen, moving very slow, or even spinning backwards. That's actually kind of cool. iQ has also been pretty useful for checking your system's vitals like temperatures, speeds, and power usage for your CPU, GPU, and RAM. In here, you can also switch between fan profiles depending on whether you want a quieter PC that runs a little bit hotter or prefer a cooler PC that sounds like a jet taking off. And for the advanced side, the BIOS is where you're going to find all the fun stuff. In here, you can boost your RAM with XMP or mess around with overclocking if you like to live on the wild side. All my benchmarks and tests that I'll show you here in a sec were done with the default settings, no overclocking. Also, if you're concerned about your new 50 series NVIDIA GPU possibly not having the correct number of ROPs, and those rumors got you feeling a little nervous, thankfully this one did in fact have the correct 112 that it was supposed to. Now when it came to the fan noise, these are my results after testing each of the main fan profiles. In quiet mode it was about 40.7 decibels. But then when moving up to performance mode, it brought the fan noise up to about 44.5 decibels. One of the quietest computers when it's idle and not doing that much, but you can see here that it was actually louder than average when the computer was working harder in performance mode while gaming. Now before we jump into the benchmarks, let's check out the included monitor. Inside the box, they give you an HDMI, USB cables, and a DisplayPort cable. And then lastly, the large power cable and power adapter. Setting it up was pretty easy, but I'm not really sure why they resorted to using screws when most monitors nowadays have a base that just snaps in. This is a 4K 32-inch quantum dot IPS gaming monitor with a refresh rate of 144 Hz with AMD FreeSync Premium and is also compatible with NVIDIA G-Sync. It's got a height adjustment of about 3 inches, a swivel of 30 degrees, and a tilt of -5 to 20 degrees. And unfortunately, there's no pivot functionality for vertical viewing. I do like the overall simplistic design and its incredibly thin bezels, but at the same time, I really wish that this massive base of the stand took up just a little bit less of my desk. Thankfully, it was just thin enough though that if I put the feet up on my keyboard, I was able to slide it almost all the way on top. For the ports on the back, we've got an audio out, 2 HDMI 2.1s, 1 DisplayPort 1.4, a USB-C that can also be used as a DisplayPort, a USB in, and 2 USB 3.0 ports. Nothing too special with the on-screen display settings, but I did like how easy it was to adjust the monitor settings within the iQ app on the computer when I connected with a USB cable. I ran all of my usual tests with the SpiderX Pro, and I can confirm that the color accuracy is in fact as amazing as it was advertised. My tests proved 100% Adobe RGB and 100% sRGB, and the brightness tested at over 470 nits. Honestly, nothing really compares to my 4K OLED gaming monitor, but it's also double the price of this one. Actually, technically, it's about 10 times more when you factor in that this only costs about $100 rather than $500 when you buy it in the bundle. It's only $100 more to get this monitor with an i8300 than just an i8300 by itself. The absolute best thing about OLED monitors monitors is how perfect their blacks are. You can see when all the lights are turned off that you get a little bit of that light black looking screen when it's supposed to be completely black. That is pretty typical with LCD monitors though. Motion was just as smooth as I hoped it would be as well. And as you can see with these close-ups of text, everything is pretty crisp with very minimal fringing. Now back to the computer and diving into the thermals. You can see in our thermal imaging time-lapse from computer off to full-on gaming that heat does start to build up against the glass right there next to the GPU. Opening up the glass panel reveals in detail what's happening as the side of the 5080 GPU does generate quite a bit of heat, but most of that heat does successfully escape out the back and top exhaust fans. As usual though, the majority of my testing was spent in actual gameplay. These were our CPU temperatures for several different games at 1080p. These are some impressively low numbers. And then averaging all 1080p gaming temperatures data together on the last 45 PCs that we've reviewed, this gives us an even better overall perspective on how it stacked up against the competition. And this reveals it to be one of the coolest CPUs that we've had in a top tier pre-built. Now moving on to our average 4K gaming temperature tests, I organized this chart by the GPU because high resolution gaming puts more pressure on the GPU and eases up on the CPU. And here you can see that the temperature for this 5080 is right smack in the middle of the pack when comparing previous gens 4080 and 4090 top tier gaming PCs. Alright, now for the performance and gaming benchmarks. And up next, the most important part of this review, the price to performance ratios. For Cinebench R23, which simulates its 3D rendering power, we got a multi-core score of 41,980 and a single core score of 2,285. By the way, all rendering software can utilize multiple cores, so that's the most important score here. This is the absolute highest score that we've ever seen for this test. And another very helpful test for you 3D renderers is the V-Ray benchmark. And these were our CUDA, RTX, and overall V-Ray performance scores. For the GPU scores, you can see that it did exceptionally well here. A little caveat though, part of this is due to some updates in the V-Ray software. This is an important score if you're doing a lot of high polygon 3D modeling or real-time viewport rendering and lighting. The overall V-Ray performance score though is a CPU-based rendering test that demonstrates how well a PC can handle the more advanced realistic rendering that takes a lot longer to calculate. And again, it topped the charts here. This score really demonstrates how exceptionally well Intel's 285K CPUs perform when it comes to multi-core rendering tasks. Again, some of this is also due to V-Ray updating their software. But collectively, all of my rendering benchmarks prove that this CPU is the best when it comes to multi-core rendering tasks. And the last CPU-based benchmark for creatives before we get into gaming is the Adobe Premiere Puget Benchmark. We got 16,480 for this one. And yet again, this tops the charts with the fastest score that we've ever seen here. This really is a fantastic PC for creative professionals. The DaVinci Resolve benchmark, we got 13,461, but this benchmark was completely changed, so it's really not worth comparing to past PCs. For 3D Mark, which is a great benchmark used to determine a computer's overall gameability, we plugged in these overall graphic and CPU scores into our master chart, and you can see that overall its performance looks to be just under what last gen's pre-builts with 4090 GPUs were capable of. Actual gaming benchmarks are probably what you guys care the most about though, and these were our average FPS results that we got for several games at their highest presets in 1080p. These are decent FPS considering we're using the highest gaming presets, but then we averaged all of the gaming FPS together and compared it to some of the others, and you can see here that it's kind of right there in the middle overall, performing just barely better than most PCs with i9s and 4080s from last gen. This kind of confirms what I've heard about Intel's 285K CPUs not being the best for gaming, but if you're into high resolution gaming, that's going to be more about the GPU. Jumping into 1440p gaming, because the GPU started to take on more of the load, you can see that it almost performed just as good as some gaming PCs from last gen with 4090 GPUs. Same thing with our average FPS for 4K gaming. Now, whenever the version of this PC with a 5090 GPU is finally available, you can actually expect about a 40 to 50% increase over these numbers, and that's pretty insane. And then checking out each game individually at this resolution, you can see that for all games, even at ultra graphic presets, we got above that necessary 60 FPS that you need for smooth gameplay. Cyberpunk and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 though did have 1% FPS lows that dipped just under 60. You might get just a little stuttering if you crank your graphics settings up too high for those games. If you want to check out my actual raw gameplay benchmarking video with all the live stats for all these games, then check out my video link in the description below, or click up here in the corner, or use this QR code if you're watching on a TV. Now, when it came to the price to performance ratio, right now at the time of this recording, this PC will cost you $4,400 or $4,500 with the 4K monitor bundle. Basically, you're getting a $500 monitor for $100 more. This is pretty expensive and honestly overpriced, but back in February, it was actually $300 $300 more. So at least we can say that it's on its way down. This specific $4,500 bundle with a PC and 4K monitor only lasts till the end of March though. It really is a frustrating time to buy a gaming PC with how expensive these GPUs are right now. You actually can't even get a 5080 or 5090 GPU anywhere at this time. Your only choice is to get them in a pre-built like this one, or pay astronomical prices on eBay for one. So as you can see in this chart, this i8300 has a pretty rough price to performance ratio at 1080p. And same thing with the gaming price to performance at 1440p and 4K. One thing to keep in mind with this PC though is that it has double the warranty of most other gaming PCs with 2 years versus 1 year, which is a pretty big deal for those of you that need that extra peace of mind. Even comparing the actual price of this PC with other pre-builts that also have next-gen GPUs, you can see that yet again, it's one of the most expensive. The absolute best price to performance Corsair Vengeance PC that's available right now with a 5080 is actually going to be this Corsair Vengeance A7500 with a 9800X 3D CPU and 5080 GPU for $3,600. I know that's still a lot of money, but I was also able to get Corsair to create a coupon code for you guys. After using my link down below and then code Justin50-S, you'll get a $50 discount. I know it's not huge, but it's something. That code will actually work with all Corsair Vengeance PCs right now, except for those with 5090 GPUs and bundles like this one. If you want the absolute most powerful Corsair Vengeance PC that's actually the best at productivity and gaming and the most upgradable and premium looking, that's going to be the Corsair Vengeance A8200 with a 9950X 3D CPU and 5090 GPU. This one, $7,000 though, but about 40 to 50% faster than this one that I reviewed today. Now, if you're understandably at an entirely different price point, these are my recommendations for every budget. I'm going to include links down below in the comments and description for each of them, as well as tag directly on this video or using a QR code if you're watching on a TV. If your budget is right at $4,000, then one of the best deals right now for a top tier pre-built PC is this Alienware Aurora R16 with an i9 and 4090. You can see in our 4K price to performance chart that it had the best ratio out of all the top tier competitors. It's one of the only brands, if not the only brand, that still has 4090 GPUs. In this current market of overinflated prices, this is actually not that bad of a deal in comparison. Just keep in mind you're locked in with a proprietary motherboard and proprietary power supply with that Alienware PC. You can never upgrade those components. You can only replace them. Closer to $3,000 and I would get this Skytech King 95 with a 9800X 3D and 5080 GPU. This was one of my favorite gaming PCs when I reviewed it, and this version is quite a bit more powerful than that one that I tested. This next one isn't as flashy and is probably going to run a little bit hotter with its smaller chassis, but right now this version of the Skytech Chronos has the same CPU and GPU of that King 95 that I just showed you, but this one only $2,700. This one's a flash deal though, so it's probably not going to be available for that much longer after I post this. Around $2,500, I'd go with the AVGPC Frostfire with the 7800X 3D and 4080 Super. This is a great deal, but as of this recording, it's also back ordered due to high demand. So hopefully by the time you see this, it's going to be back in stock. If you need to be around $2,000, then the Skytech Omega with the 7800X 3D and AMD's new 9070 XT GPU is a really good option. Closer to $1,500, and I'd recommend the iBUYPOWER Y40. This one that's on sale as of right now is just barely slower than the one that I reviewed last year, but also a whopping $200 less expensive. So yes, it is a better buy than that exact configuration that I reviewed. And if that's still too much, then this Thermaltake LCGS View i460T with a 14th gen i7 and 4060 Ti is what I would get for just under $1,300. If you absolutely have to be under $1,000, or you're just now getting into gaming PCs and you want your graphics to at least match that of a PS5 or Xbox Series X, then a decent option to match that would be this ABS Cyclone Aqua for just over $800. Now, if you do decide to purchase this PC or any of the others that I mentioned, then please remember to use my affiliate links in the comments and description below, or tag directly on this video, or using a QR code if you're watching on a TV, as I get a small commission at no cost to you for every single purchase made. And it's actually a major factor in keeping this channel going and getting better and better for you. And thank you to all of my members for your monthly support of this channel. Remember to check out this PC's raw benchmarks video with all of our actual gameplay with detailed stats and exact graphic settings used. Also, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to stay current on all of the latest gaming PCs. PC gaming is awesome, but trust me, do not let it consume your life. What's helped me mentally is getting outside, eating healthy, staying active, and spending more time with my family. Also, reading the Bible 4 times a week has been shown to massively boost your mental mental health, and I can vouch for that. And if you're skeptical about the Bible, then check out the book or documentary, The Case for Christ. Thanks for watching, guys. God bless.